one of the many things, I mean, one of the countless things I'll say that I admire about you is that you just
Countless. Oh
seem
my
like,
God.
yeah, there's a
Thank
lot
you,
of things
Tyler.
I admire about you, man. Yeah, maybe like top three is that you
I admire you
totally,
too, man. Thank you.
um, it's that you embody this kind of what I'll call a DIY spirit in everything you seem to touch. You've launched a record label, you curate concerts, you curate like genre fluid concerts. It's not like you're just programming classical music in quotes. And you set up group commissioning projects, and that's just a few things. Where do you think this DIY mindset comes from, and why is it so important to your work?
I mean, I think it comes from all the stuff. I can go deeper on it, but I think it comes from like all the stuff that I was literally just saying. Is that it was really like the norm. It's like I wasn't put in music lessons as a kid, or I didn't have immediate access to like what a life as a professional musician could be. I didn't have access to a lot of education or to going to seeing concerts or to, like I just didn't have that kind of exposure unless I like really had an interest in it and looked for it. So the DIY spirit definitely comes from like growing up, always having to like make something happen. So that really just like feels like the norm after a certain point. It's like if I want something to happen, I have to kind of like make it happen with
Oh,
various like
yeah.
results.
I so relate to that because, having gone through like academia until I couldn't stand it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not fair. I won't say that. I did try to pursue a doctorate, but
Hmm.
that was kind of, I think, for me, the first inkling of like I got to do this thing myself because, as so many people know, academia is really gatekeepy.
Yeah.
And for example, I felt like it was a miracle I even got an interview at a place like Eastman for a PhD. And then I got rejected, and it was like, well, of course, like 2 years ago, I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
my path took me away from that, and I feel very happy about that. But whether it's academia or applying for grants or seeking institutional support, that's just something that I have benefited from, every once in a while. But I just got so sick of being told no when I just like wanted to do stuff. Like I just,
Hmm.
I want to put out a CD, and I want to do it my way, and I don't want to apply for grants and like wait 9 months to find out like,
I
well,
know.
actually you're not going to get the money to do this. And it's like, well, I could have already done it, in the time I've been waiting around.
Yeah.
So for me, that's I would say, and I will say the DIY stuff for me is to a lesser degree than what I see in you. But I think it's a question of accessibility and gatekeeping, and just like I don't want a ceiling. I just want to do it, and if
Hmm.
if it takes like my own resources, whether that's my own money or my own blood, sweat, and tears and
Hmm.
time, and it's just I'll go for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if there is some kind of institutional support that comes my way, great. But yeah, I'm not counting on it.
Yeah. DIY is like such a weird thing, right? Because there's and like you mentioned this a little bit before, but I mean, like also I should mention on this podcast, I mean, like you mentioned creating commissioning projects. I mean, you're the main inspiration for that. Like
Mm.
you like Orchard Projects and your other consortiums were like a huge influence of me of like creating alternative means for commissioning and not only like alternative means for commissioning, but like communally focused means for commissioning. Like I remember like when people asked me about like the consortium when I did the saxophone consortium and organized that, which was very influenced by your trombone consortium,
Yeah.
right? And now you have this Orchard project, which I've also done some like arrangements and contributed and like been very inspired by. All these things are very like DIY, but also like something else that people like ask about when they ask about these projects is they ask about like what the benefits are of doing that rather than applying for a grant or rather than going through some sort of institution to do it or supplementing it through some other institution. And like something I've said a lot is that those models sometimes, unless somebody is really lucky or really high profile or really strikes something, those models, like Shelley is a good example of somebody who really taps into that and eschews this kind of model. But I've always seen those institutional models as so like dead end in the end, because
Yeah.
it's like, even if you get like all your funding, you get the grant. Yeah, it's great. Like all that kind of stuff. these pieces still like get played once and they get like a premiere recording or something, like, you know what I mean? Like they don't actually become these like defining artifacts or like figures, or they don't like grow beyond that. I mean, some people again are very lucky in that, like I feel like Shelley really does do that. Depending, it doesn't matter where her stuff does, it always gets played and it always grows, which is something I really admire about Shelley, right? But like, yeah, like something I really wanted to tap into with the consortium stuff is just like the idea of having a piece played more than once in different places by different people. It's like that is more attractive to me rather than this kind of like one track thing, because I think a lot about how new music could grow beyond its, and some people are doing this, but how new music could grow beyond its bubble and grow and not like die out, or classical music and how it could not die out. And I mean, like, one thing that they could take from the band or the pop artist model is that like a lot of these like bands record a record and then they tour it, right? Like, and yeah, okay, like it's grindy and it has its ups and downs in its own way for sure, but that is something that a lot of contemporary music or classical or experimental music could take from, like thinking about a sustainability to a piece of work that you do rather than just creating the piece of work and then moving on to the next one.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Micromaker by Loose Leaf Transmissions. We hope you enjoyed this brief glimpse into the inner workings of the creative life. If this resonated with you, be sure to check out the full conversation on Music Maker with Tyler Klein, a podcast exploring craft and process, philosophy and inspiration, and the honest, often messy parts of being an artist, creative uncertainty, purpose and identity, and resilience. You can find Music Maker wherever you get your podcasts or by visiting musicmakerpodcast.com.